now, question. The question we should begin to ask is, where did baptism originate from? Do you know there are some people who think John the Baptist was the person who initiated baptism? Yeah. And John the Baptist was not. John the Baptist was not the person who was the originator or progenitor of baptism. He wasn't. Some even think it was Jesus. It wasn't at all. So, who introduced baptism? You need to understand. Paul himself was the one who brought it to light. He brought the subject of baptism. Paul the apostle. And let's find out from Paul who he claimed brought baptism. So let's understand the concept of baptism. Where did it all begin? Because if we can understand it, then we can know whether we have the right to be engaged in it. And what kind of baptism? So go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. For 1 Corinthians chapter 10. We'll close with that. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Let's be fast, please. If you are there, shout fire. Look at verses 1. He says, moreover, brethren, I will not that you should be ignorant. Amen. How that our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. Read. And were baptized unto Moses in the cloud
and in the sea.
And in the sea. Now, who is saying this? Paul the apostle. So, Paul is saying, the whole concept of baptism began with Moses. But it was not Moses who did the baptism. Rather, it was the angel of the Lord that was leading them in the pillar of fire during the night to give them heat, and the pillar of cloud during the day to give them shelter for 40 years. That did the baptism. And the baptism lasted 40 years. Every day. Because they passed through the sea once, but they were in the cloud for the next 40 years. You see that? Yes, sir. So if this is true then that means the first thing to be baptized was the earth. You say, how come? Because Genesis chapter 1 verses 2, it says the earth was without form and void, darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved over the face of the waters. See? So waters were baptized by the Spirit of the Lord who moved 16 billion miles. The earth is 16 billion miles. Yeah. And the Spirit of the Lord moved over the waters. So he baptized the waters that baptized the earth that was formless and void. So if the earth was without form and void, then it means, and water covered it, and the Spirit covered the waters that covered the earth that was without form, it means baptism, therefore, is for the imperfect. You didn't get it. Don't worry about it. It's for the one who is empty. It's for the one who is void. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the children of Israel were empty. They didn't really have anything. Whatever treasures they took from the Israelites, from the Egyptians. And they were heading to the promised land. Now, the Bible says they were baptized in the cloud and in the sea. Question. What did that baptism do for them? What was the reason for the baptism? What was the reason? Because you need to know. Read verses 3. The Bible says, and did they all eat the same spiritual food?
And all drank the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them. And the rock was Christ.
You see what he's saying? He's trying to tell you that the reason why the children of Israel were baptized in the cloud and in the sea was so that they can drink spiritual drink and eat spiritual food.
Amen.
And the Bible says they ate manna, which was angels' food, for how long? For 40 years. You see that? So, this baptism was an avenue for the angels of God to provide for them. Because without it, there will be no provision. Now, look up. That does not mean such is the case today. It was because of the circumstance they were caught up in. So, it is of a truth, therefore, that this kind of baptism is not the same as the baptism of John the Baptist then.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Because that one was for a different reason.
Yes, sir.
Follow this carefully. If that is the case, then it is not the same as the baptism of Jesus. Because that would be also for a different reason. And there were two baptisms Jesus talked about.